عارفيني أنا Lydia. I'm in my second year for the master's program. I'm very happy in order to talk about secrets and attachment styles, which is a very, very on the research topic. I will talk about culture of secrecy, family dynamics, and psychotherapy. But let me start بالسين. فاكرين جوي لما he had to hide Monica's and Chandler's relationship? كنتوا مش friends فعلا ولا ايه؟ So as we were starting, I think every one of us had to hide a secret some way or another. It differs. We had to hide a secret for a long or a short period of time, and the kind of secret we had to hide. But anyone who did hide a secret knows how it feels. Somehow it's a tough experience. Well, just a disclaimer before I start, I want to make it clear, and as we're talking about secrecy and how they impact attachment, I really understand some people had to hide secrets or had to stay عندهم secrets for reasons outside of their hands, but it's not any kind of judgment as we're exploring مع بعض يعني. Let's talk about some of the facts. Generally, keeping secrets is correlated مع lower quality or lower relationship quality. For adolescents who have to keep secrets, عندهم increased psychosocial problems. They're more likely to experience حاجات زي poor self-control, conduct disorder, anxiety, depression, وعندهم struggle إن هم maintain their relationships in general. Secrecy in general is associated مع insecure attachment styles. From what we know about secure attachment, secrecy is the opposite. For secure attachment إنه في trust, في authenticity, في إنه you can bring your real self. For secrecy is the opposite of that. When we're talking about secrets, احنا بنتكلم على شوية حاجات مختلفة. But there are some secrets that you keep, your secrets, some secrets that are kept from you, and then there are some secrets that you keep with others. And that's when we were talking about the culture of secrecy in general. And then there are some secrets that we keep from ourselves as well. Secrets generally affect relationships أو interpersonal relationships عشان هما they affect حاجات زي shared reality, the story, the narrative that we say, authenticity, ability to trust, and rumination, which is basically the more you're keeping a secret, the more you will think about it somehow. وبرضو as we're speaking, secrecy and attachment styles affect each other. So because you're keeping a secret, it can make you more avoidant or more anxious. Because you have an anxious attachment style or avoidant attachment style or disorganized, it can make you more prone to keep more secrets. So just keep in mind that واحنا بنتكلم. Getting back to family secrecy or culture, you know the saying wash your dirty linen at home. أو احنا في مصر بنقول احنا مش بننشر غسيلنا قدام الناس. Secrecy is a culture. احنا whatever is shameful we don't want to talk about, or we don't want to bring it to the outside. It's generally in the culture حتى لو احنا we're not keeping specific secrets. A culture of secrecy arises when it's normal in the family, we're keeping secrets. Sometimes people do not even talk about the secrets that they keep. It's not like, okay, this is a secret and we're keeping it. So there is a silent agreement and there are some secrets and we will keep them. And it's considered an act of intimacy because we're keeping a secret together. We are in this together. احنا مع بعض. We were not telling the outside world about what's happening in the home. It brings us closer. So let me ask you, what are some secrets people keep or kept from people?
I feel like if there's like unrest at home or fights, it's like a very big thing to keep a secret.
Yes, marital issues. Abuse, any kind of abuse.
Affairs came to mind.
Affairs, infidelity. Anything else?
ممكن برضه psychological disorders يعني.
Yes, mental illnesses. Where I want to highlight some of the secrets مش بس things that are shameful. Sometimes there are things that are painful. For example, a child died and we're not talking about it and a secret. A miscarriage. A sickness, حاجة it's not a mental illness, it's not controversial, but it's a sickness and we're not talking about it. An accident that happened in the past and we're not talking about it. It can go from things that are so shameful لحاجات that are more بس painful. So what are the implications of family secrecy, especially for a child who is growing up in this culture? It is an emotional roller coaster because if it is a culture, the child is more prone to have to keep secrets and have secrets kept from him. They're experiencing حاجات but they don't have a narrative for it. They kind of experience this emotional roller coaster. They don't know why they're feeling what they're feeling. And one of the developmental impact of this is the internal working model or the representation of the self and others is fragmented and distorted because there is no narrative. Even in families اللي ما فيهاش secrecy but it's kind of unhealthy, you kind of know what is happening. Or the internal working model is, it's not the best representation, but you know what happened. But here it's distorted and fragmented. Systemic and relational effects, and one of the things that happen, the power dynamics would shift completely. And we were talk more about parentification and triangulation. Where another thing, in a culture of secrecy, we don't break the patterns. For example, the father was keeping a secret, he had to cope with it, he go into addiction, for example. He becomes avoidant, and then he gives this to his child because the child برضه is suffering and he's seeing this pattern. The patterns keep repeating and it becomes حاجة intergenerational. Let's talk more about systemic and relational effects. First, parentification. برضه خلينا bear in mind إنه لو ما يبقى فيه secrecy, there is no external support because if we are keeping a secret inside the home, the child is not allowed to talk about it, but they're not getting support from the outside. فحتى الليكس أو يعني الليكس اللي هم يقدروا يطلعوا منها some of the stress is not there. And the parent has no support. If we're hiding مثلا an alcohol problem in the house or marital conflict, what happens is parentification is one of the things that happen, which is basically child neglect. What is parentification? Is basically when the child has to become the parent. But there are two types. Instrumental, لما الchild يكون بيعمل حاجات for the parent, they are helping him out in a more of a practical manner, and then emotional, when the parent depends on the child for their emotional well-being or for emotional support and relief. So the child becomes the caregiver, مش caregiver helps the child or supports the child. فlet's كده look على different scenarios and what happens. For the anxiously attached, what happens إنه they internalize the thought إنه if I don't care for others, I'll be abandoned. I'm always having to care for my mom because there is no one else to care for my mom who is taking care of a sick person or who is having to handle my dad's infidelity, for example. And what this does to the child in hypervigilance, they're always aware عشان anything that they do, they're not complying with the story, they might be abandoned. For the avoidant, they internalize the feeling and it's safer to rely on myself because they are taking care of the needs of the parent, or parent is not taking care of their needs. But there's no place for their needs or their emotional needs to be met. And this results in distance. For the disorganized, they internalize the thought إنه لو أنا I took care of others, I might be safe, or I might not. And this results in fear and fragmentation. Another difference in the power dynamics that happens is triangulation. And I think it's a form of parentification somehow, but it's when the child is caught between the couple, or the dad and the mom, and he kind of becomes the spouse of one. Who is not the parent, he's replacing the emotional needs that the dad should satisfy, or that the mom should satisfy. They become كده caught in the marital relationship, and the child becomes invisible. فبرضو we're talking about a culture where we were not seeking external support and the child can't talk about this, not even to his friends. But there are different Bardo scenarios that can happen. For the anxious person, they become emotionally enmeshed, but they have to be close to the mom in order for them to be loved and accepted. They have to turn against the dad. This is what is implicitly required of them. And they become so afraid of having their own person, or having their own opinion, or having the boundaries. عشان if they are not enmeshed or not close to the mom, they will be let go or they will be abandoned. For the avoidant person, they're usually caught in the middle. They have to mediate. They have to be the diplomat. They have to kind of make things better. And the thought they have is, okay, there is conflict right now, and if I bring my needs, or if I caused more problems, it will be more chaotic. So I have to remain contained, independent, and keep portraying fitted in okay, I'm fine. For the disorganized, they're usually caught in the in-between. The parents are inconsistent, unreliable, and they get the message that love is confusing and unsafe. So moving to romantic relationships, because we know that what happens in childhood, we take it with us to romantic relationships. Initially I thought avoidant people would be more likely to keep secrets, but literature shows avoidant and the insecure both keep secrets. The avoidant person keep more secrets, but they keep it out of the need for distance, while the anxious person have more guilt about keeping secrets. But they both engage in this secrecy. So let's move to the secrets we keep from ourselves. I love this quote: if you want to keep a secret, you have to hide it from yourself as well. Which take me to a concept in psychoanalysis, أكتر حاجة أنا بحبها, which is the unthought known. The unthought known is a concept introduced by Christopher Bolus, and it's basically what we know deep in our bones, but we cannot articulate or think or bring to our awareness. وخليني أحكي لكم how I came across it in the first place. I read a book about an author who discovered later in her 50s, she did a DNA test by coincidence and discovered that her dad is not her biological dad. And she went back and found the story about what happened. Turns out her dad was a sperm donor, her real dad was a sperm donor. And somehow she said that when she learned about this, she felt that she had known all her life. And because she's a novelist, she went back to her writings and she started to talk about, to see traces of questions, of rebellion. Here she was Jewish, and in her writing she kind of rebelled against this. But she kind of feels somehow I had known. And she did a podcast called Family Secrets, where she interviews people with the same extravagant stories of how my dad is not my dad. I have an older brother that I never knew about. My adopted parents are actually my grandparents, and my sister is my mom. حاجات اللي هو really shocking. But somehow they say that even though the information is shocking, they always felt that they had known it. They were shocked, but somehow they had known it. And برضو interestingly, I was reading a book called Attachment in Psychotherapy. عندنا في library, and I came across this again and how it shows in psychotherapy. The unthought known in psychotherapy basically بيطلع in the non-verbal realm, not in the content. We focus too much on the content and what is being said, but the process of it, what's happening in the room, a lot of things happen in the non-verbal realm. So how does the unthought known comes out in therapy? 3 ways. First, enactment. So what the client cannot say or articulate, they will reenact with us. We are not blank slates. Sometimes you would feel the client is being distanced. Sometimes you would feel that you are turning into a more powerful person. مثلا in the room, they're making you this person. They are reenacting a dynamic that they are not aware of. Another thing is evocation, or sometimes the client will evoke in you a feeling that they themselves are feeling. And one of the examples he gave around a certain client, he always felt he had to gold plate his words, or he had to kind of keep choosing every single word. And he shared with him this feeling, and the client told him, oh, that's exactly how I feel all my life. And upon further exploration, they discovered that he had been told, people will discover your identity at work or your religion at work, and you will be in trouble. So he's living with this sense of threat. But the therapist being able to bring it up in the therapy room and to be aware of what he was feeling kind of made the difference. And third thing is embodiment. So we know that the body is wiser. The body always tells the truth. So what's happening in the therapy room, how we're feeling or how the client is feeling tells a lot and brings a lot of the secrets to the surface. So how does each attachment style manifest the unthought known? The secure person, we will find some congruence between what is being said and the body. فما فيش this incongruence between the process and the content. So we're talking about one thing, but everything else in the room is saying something else. The avoidant person, you would actually feel it, and anyone who saw clients here would know how you would see how a client would not want to be close to you, how they would sit with the crossed arms, how they would kind of try to take care of your needs somehow. But it comes out in ways that are non-verbal. For the anxious person, they would be hyper vigilant, always aware of your every move. Sometimes they would try to push boundaries or try to make sure that you're not leaving them. Sometimes you would see in Homa they want to please you somehow, and they're telling you what they want to hear, what you want to hear. And they sometimes would interpret things that happen حتى in مثلا scheduling or rescheduling as abandonment. For the disorganized client, they would bring in the chaos of relationships into the therapy room. So here, what is the role of the therapist? The therapist is the secure base. So because all their lives the clients have been dealing with unreliable parents, so this is a chance to meet a reliable person. So they start to correct the patterns, and therefore we create new attachment patterns. For the مثلا avoidant, we need to provide a chance for safe intimacy. Intimacy where the client is not expected to هم ينسوا نفسهم and to care for my needs. For the anxious client, we need to give them a chance to be their own person, or to have boundaries without changing how we feel about them. And for the disorganized, we need to offer a safe space to discuss trauma and to heal from it. So we become this chance in the space where the unthought known or the secret they're keeping comes out. So I want to leave you with these visuals because I think they portray how much people can keep inside. And leave you with the quote: "Shame dies when stories are told in safe spaces." These are my references.
Such a nice talk.
Yes.
Such a nice talk. برافو عليكي. I love the choice of the topic جدا جدا.
Very
And I love that you brought it to therapy لأنه على قد ما it's related to families على قد ما therapy is the place where usually secrets are told or not told. بس يعني I mean it's very relevant to the context. ده حلو قوي. I love it. Very very well done. أسئلة يا جماعة؟
انا عندي سؤال، يعني هي ثوت اكتر، يعني لو كنت بتقولي ان secrets ممكن تبقى painful وshameful، ففكرت ان في secrets actually كويسه كمان، يعني انه انا حامل بس مش هقول لحد عشان ما اتحسدش، او يعني good secrets. فكنت wondering قوي ازاي، مش شرط يبقى عندك اجابه، بس يعني بفكر معاكي انه هل برضه good secrets بتعمل كده، ولا بس لو حاجه انا عارفه انها وحشه فانا ما اثرش فيا.
I think مثلا في الإكزامبل ده إنه secrets kept for how long? We all kind of keep secrets, but why is it kept and for how long? فمثلا أنا حامل، أوكي أنا آخر 9 شهور أخبي الشدة مثلا. أنا بخبيه ليه؟ I think it can differ. يعني أنا برضو ما جبتش أي advantages for secrets. أكيد في advantages.
لا مش قصدي advantages، بس قصدي حتى اعتقد ان حتى الجود سيكريتس مش بس ان هي painful، حتى هي كويسه عشان زي ما تقولي الموقف وراها بيكون حسد، او بيكون يعني حتى مثلا هتجوز مثلا، مش عايزه اقول لحد ان انا في ريليشن شيب او كده، دي حاجه كويسه، بس اعتقد الموقف برضه it being انه عشان الحسد او عشان محدش يضرني او كده، بعتقد برضه هتليد لنفس
برضو distinction ما بين secrecy and privacy is so important. لأنه privacy is one thing which is حاجة جميلة but there is a fine line between secrecy and privacy.
بس انا actually كنت عايزه افكر معاكي بصوت عالي ده انه definitely there are secrets that are kept and create a sense of shame وguilt وبتخش في spiral كده معينه بس كمان في boundaries ومش كل حد should get our 100% authentic version of who we are. مش كل حد in this room can show up every single day being 100% authentic لانه يمكن ده مش الكونتكست بتاع ده او يمكن that's not يعني يمكن في حاجات we can argue في حاجات مش المفروض تتعرف او مش لازم او بلاش او whatever بقى wherever we want to put it on the spectrum. ف what are your thoughts on the idea of secrecy بس كمان boundaries?
Yes. I think إنه what I'm talking about the chances where you can talk about it. هي حاجات كبيرة فimagine إنه you have an alcoholic at home but you can tell no one. بس what he's talking about برضو in psychotherapy if you told one safe person it's enough. It's not like we have to bring our secrets in front of everyone. بس فكرة إنه no one knows at all and you're carrying the weight. وبرضو it differs from one thing to another. What does it mean to carry a secret? If you're concealing حاجة في البيت it means you have to lie over and over and over again. It depends على السيكريت حجمها قد ايه what you do to hide it. I don't think we should our lives, our private lives should be on display. I think at least one safe person who knows about حاجة would make it better for people.
اعتقد برضه فرق الباوندريز ان you choose not to. It's not يعني زي ما ليديا بتقول هو it's not about I can't it's about I don't know. انا مش عايزه اعرف دلوقتي حاجه معينه عني بس لو انا نفسي قوي اقول لك بس ما ينفعش هنا ممكن.
I think أنا interested برضو in children لأن children who are يعني زي ما أنتي بتقولي اللي هو I don't want to keep a secret. You are an adult, you have the choice, and you can weigh the consequences of it, اللي هو pros and cons, and you decide. But for a child, they're forced to, or they are مش forced, maybe they're not forced, but they would, and children are smart, but they would get, they can't talk about it to anyone, so it would impact them. It's a harsh experience.
Yeah, definitely.
Any other questions?